Hey everyone, it's great to be back with you again today to give you a devotion. In the last few devotions that I've done, we've talked about three-letter words in the Bible, some powerful words and what they mean and what they bring. We had no, we had one, we had the word but, and I want to just bring one more to you today, and it's the word yes. The power of the word yes. I don't know if you've ever considered what your life would be like if you'd have said yes to every single opportunity that came your way. It would certainly be very different. Back in the 90s, there was a famous comedy film with Jim Carrey in it called Yes Man. And Jim Carrey plays a character who pretty much his life is boring, it's tedious, it's going nowhere. He never has any success in anything, and it's pretty pessimistic. So he goes along to one of these self-help seminars, and while he's there, the mantra of the guy is you just have to say yes to everything. Yes will bring you all kinds of opportunities. So from that moment onwards, he goes away and he starts to say yes to absolutely everything. Now, of course, it's a comedy, so he gets himself into all kinds of ridiculous situations by saying yes. But it is interesting because even though sometimes it was foolish for him to say yes, it always seemed to come around the circle and create an opportunity for him. So, for example, in one occasion, somebody suggests to him, why don't you learn the guitar? So he says yes, without even thinking about it or without any reason. I'll learn the guitar. So he learns the guitar. Later on in the film, he gets the opportunity to play the guitar on the ledge of a high building to try and soothe the man and call him down from jumping off the top of this high building. It's all a bit stupid, I know, but it was a comedy. So, but I wonder where you are on that scale of yes and no, particularly when it comes to responding to God. Where are you on that scale? Are you a 10? Do you just say, when God says, jump, do you say how high? Or are you one of those ones that's always trying to work out reasons as to why it doesn't apply to you? And I think that's a really important thing for us to think about. Are we saying yes to God or not? Of course, in business, yes men are tagged as being sycophants, and they're despised and they're loathed by everybody. I mean, nobody likes a teacher's pet. Nobody likes the staff member that sucks up to the boss. But when it comes to God, there is no greater response that we could ever have than to just say, yes, God, whatever you say. Because if we really believe that God has plans for us, plans to give us a hope and a future, then we have to understand that everything that God calls us to do is for our own good. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. All things work together for the good of those who love God and called to his purpose. Now, of course, the mistake we make is in thinking that good means it's going to feel good and it's going to be always pleasant. But of course, God's good doesn't mean that. God's good means it's good for us. It's more to do with our spiritual formation, our spiritual development and maturity than it is to do with us feeling good. And if we truly want to be mature Christians, if we want to be disciples of Jesus Christ, then we have to kind of ditch this mentality that filters out the more demanding expectations of God's word and somehow unapplies them to our own life. Because I think sometimes too often we convince ourselves that things are not good for us and we say no to them, when the truth is they're just not easy and we should have said yes to them. Think about Noah. God asked Noah to do an extraordinary thing. He said, Noah, I'm going to flood the earth. I want you to build a big boat and put all the animals in it. I mean, what a crazy thing. And you can imagine Noah saying to God, well, I've done everything you've ever asked me to do, but really, this is just one step too far. This is nuts. But there's a wonderful verse in Genesis chapter 6, verse 22, and it just says this. So Noah did everything exactly as God commanded him to do. And I want you to think about, what if Noah had said no? What would God have done? Would God have found somebody else? Or would God have just carried on with his punishment? I don't know. But the great thing is that Noah said yes to God, no matter what the circumstance was. Think about Peter in the New Testament. Peter comes in from a night of fishing, fruitless fishing, hadn't caught anything all night long. comes back, meets up with Jesus. Jesus says, hey, Peter, why don't you go back out there and cast your nets on the other side of the boat? Now you can imagine everything within Peter is screaming, no, no, no. All I want to do is go home, have a cup of tea, have some breakfast and have a rest. Jesus, I'm the fisherman. I understand fishing. You're the carpenter. You understand how to make wooden things. And everything within him would have been screaming, no. But again, there's this great verse. And the verse says that even though he says, I've been out fishing all night, nevertheless, at your word, I will go. He goes out and experiences the greatest catch of his life and fills the nets. And his whole life is changed from that moment onwards because he said yes to God. At the end of the film, this character that Jim Carrey plays, obviously he realises that, it's not good to say yes to absolutely everything. There needs to be discernment. And whilst there's great power in saying yes, we need to know to say yes to the right things. We need wisdom in all of that. And discernment is clearly an important part of our decision making. But also we mustn't use discernment as a means to get out of saying yes to God, because there are certain things that we don't need discernment for. And often we dress up discernment when really it's an unwillingness to do what God has asked us to do. When God asks us to live holy, to live pure, to live with honesty, to live with kindness, forgiveness, sacrifice, love and integrity, these are not optional or discernible things. These are things we just say, yes, God. And when God calls us to do the things that are in his will and his purpose for our lives, it's not right for us to say, well, I just don't feel that that's right at the moment. We should be a people that just say yes. Because there's a huge difference between not saying yes because something is unwise or wrong and not saying yes because it's just a bit too hard and a bit too costly for us. So if you're in the habit of saying no to God, if you're in the habit of making excuses as to why you can't obey God and fulfill the words of God, let me encourage you. Why don't you become a yes man or a yes woman? When God speaks, say, God, I'm your servant and I just want to obey what you have to say. I guarantee it will open up incredible doors for you, incredible opportunities. It will take you to places that you would never dreamed were possible when you say yes to God. So let's be yes men and women, and let's see where that will take us in our lives. God bless you. Have a great day.